Thank you, sir. So this is the part where I gotta be on my best behavior now, cause you're being recorded. Freeport can hear me and they watching too, so you gotta be above board. So like we were saying about the corporate social responsibility part. And of course we did go into the case studies from last week, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I did have a few of these up here. No knock on you, Citibank, but in January of 2018, that fine was 70 million. Because they didn't address the shortcomings or shortfalls with their AML program. US Bank. Then there was TD Bank and Lloyd Bank. You would have this in your packet from last week, so I don't have to really go into that. And we did do the bank case study last week. So if you do, I would suggest that even if you don't do that, there's a lot of information on that and it's fresh and it's current, that you perhaps want to use that as a typology as an example. And I mean, you got a wealth of information on that right now. That's the hot topic right now. It was so hot that my boss, she told me to do a presentation just on Danks Bank to some senior staff. And it was well received. And matter of fact, there's a new paper came out on what went wrong with Danks. And I was like, man, wow, Brian never used this. And there was a lot of stuff in there. You could pick that pieces. I would suggest something like a Danks Bank, Enron. Enron is more good so for your corporate governance. You could go to town with that one now. You would love that one. A Danks Bank, oh my. What could go wrong? Everything went wrong with Danks Bank. So if you got those two as examples, that's an easy slam dunk. Lessons learned from bank. This is in your handle also. So you don't have to go with that. Yeah. Another case study that's also in your handout from last week would have been Enron, which is a major case. And that's it for the slideshow. So we can now go into talk a little bit about the handout. Let me get the light. Chance to briefly look at you. Huh? What? What's that there? Okay, so what I did, folks, I typed up the question, not in its entirety. I just made one or two suggestions, so that's all right with y'all, with the number count too, so we can discuss that. So yes. I don't think, 28. Oh. I mean, I got to buy that paper. Stuff.
This. Wow. Look at God.
I did what? I didn't know this. There was enough for everyone to get one? You got an extra? Well, okay, we got an extra.
See?
You wouldn't have enough. So everyone got, oh, you need another one? Okay, so like I okay, so you good. So I had a chance to everyone. Alright, yeah. So what I did, I looked at the question that you had so far. I didn't go in great depths, but okay, you're on page 1? Yes. Brian. So what I did with the question 1, I just did a suggested workup. Because I know you have, what, 2,500 to 3,500? Okay, so 250 to maybe 300 words. You don't need more than that. The question posed, explain, sure you already look at the questions. Explain as if a new member of staff who has no previous compliance or regulatory experience, the approach to regulatory adopted by the regulator of a firm in a sector of your choice. And first thing that comes to mind, you need to explain what are why is compliance and why is regulations important. Yeah? You would need to flesh that out. I mean that was in the intro, this new section here, section 3 in the book. So you would need to flesh that out. And what is the expectation of the regulators? I gave you a little cheat sheet in the handout last week. What's expected from the regulators? Another source would be the Central Bank of the Bahamas' website as it relates to corporate governance. I'll talk about that a little later. But you would need to flesh out those two right there. That's a good starting point. What is compliance, regulations, what's the importance, and what is the expectation of the regulators? Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we're doing what we're doing. There is a regulatory expectation, and it's the law. Yeah? So we would have to hash those two out. And I was conservatively 250, maybe 300 words. Now, if you decided you want to go with more words, by all means. Yeah? And I'm sure you guys already have your draft already. With your word count and everything in your computer by now. I know you always on point. Question number 2. Huh? What is it? Oh, don't listen to her. So question number 2. Again, with question number 2, I went and I did a breakdown with the word count, just me. So you may decide to do it different. 250 words conservatively should be able to answer that. The question posed, identify a regulatory initiative that has being implemented or is in the process of being implemented. So it could be a past one or something that's in the pipeline right now that's earmarked to come on stream soon in the sector of your choice. And most of us is probably going to be financial services. I would, yeah. Okay, consider the implementation process and illustrate through the use of practical examples how this has impacted upon your chosen sector, i.e. financial services, on a particular regulated firm or bank or institution. And one I came up with off the top of my head is CRS, Common Reporting Standard. And I just, I guess, you know, how I do it, I throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. Yeah? Normally when I am doing a paper, I just throw everything against the wall. And then I will come back and edit, tweak, take out what's necessary, fine tune, citations, all that good stuff. But it's a live document and I'm constantly working on it from day one. So this is like a rough draft. So I use the example of the CRS, Common Reporting Standard, how it was developed, why it's needed. I guess Europe got jealous of the United States with FATCA. So they come up with their version of the reporting, with the Common Reporting Standard. Who does it affect? How it affects your institution? If you're going to use, let's just say a bank, whatever, your institution, who would qualify as a reporting individual entity under CRS? So you have to flesh all that out. How will it affect your business? I mean, think about it for a second. If a new legislation came up, that means there are going to be changes. Paperwork can change. The way you onboard new persons who meet that criteria of the CRS standard. So just like with the U.S. FATCA, once you have U.S. indicia, green card holder, U.S. resident, all that good stuff, new forms, you have to upload that information in your database, and then you have to do your periodic reviews and reporting on them. So all that takes what? Time and money and resource. So how will that impact your business? Will it affect the bottom line? Because if, like if you're saying, oh, it's so profitable today, then all of a sudden this new initiative came out, now we got to go get involved in IT. And they, when they slip you that little bill, they say, okay, bring this to fruition for 1.5 million. Ooh, boy, okay, that means we can't hire no one for compliance for a little while, okay. So we got this bill now for the 1.5, the new paperwork, we gotta go to Wong's, I guess, and get these new forms print up. And if you got the resources to bring on new staff, you gotta hire some persons who would be the, I guess, we have to train too, that's time and money. You gotta bring in perhaps some consultant who have the experience in CRS. So all this is money, this is time, and it affects the bottom line. Yeah, but of course it's a regulatory requirement. On the flip side, if you don't meet your reporting obligation, what happens? You're penalized. So you damn you do, damn you don't. So it is what it is. But I have a write up here. I think it's under the example CRS is the second paragraph. Okay, who will be monitored? So you could address that if you decide to speak on CRS for your institution. Who will be monitored? Is this a costly exercise? Which is a no-brainer, because you know it's going to cost money. Financial institutions will need to develop systems, perhaps, because if you never had this system in place before, it's brand new, then you need to do an assessment. Perhaps bring in a consultant and set up this new infrastructure in place to meet the obligation, to capture all the required information. So when CRS, you reported how much times a year? Once? Because I think with FATCA it's twice a year, right? With the portal I think it's twice a year. I know in September we do a report. I'm not sure if it's twice a year. See, because I'm not in the FATCA area yet. I know once a year. Okay, great. Yay, okay. Okay.
Once a year.
Once. Which is, hey, I had to get along with it.
US-based. CRS is not.
CRS, yeah, all of the European countries. Okay, so once you got that, I mean, this is, like I said, this helped flash out. The information to be exchanged must correspond to prior year. I got all of that in there. If you so desire, you could build on that. There's a wealth of information on CRS out there. Or you can do your research and see if there any other initiatives being in the pipeline out there, and you can say, how is this going to affect my organization? If you're aware of it, yeah. And of course, CRS will become part of the local law. So it ain't like woulda, coulda, shoulda. If you're in financial services, it's a must. And of course, when you hear words like must in law, and legal counsel to tell you that means there are penalties attached. So it ain't like you to get away with that. So how will it impact your business? So when you go to your board, the board will say, how do we get around that? But say, sir, it says right here in law, it says we must report. And you got to explain to them that, hey, there are penalties for non-compliance. Question number 3. Again, 250 word count, suggested, 250. Or there's with little leverage, you could probably 300 words. You don't have to stick with 250. Yeah? Because even though I'm trying to stay within that 2,500, you still got room to play with out another 100. So you wouldn't be breaking the bank. Illustrate through the use of examples the possible risk and subsequent consequences. You will note in your handout I have underlined consequences. It's one of those sexy words. That means they want to know what consequences. Yeah, it's sexy words. So once you see words like that, sometimes they helped us out in the past. They'll bold some words, underline or italicize some words. So when you see stuff like that, it means, hey, okay, that means they want us to really focus on that. So consequences that are likely to impact your sector, again, financial services, of your choice and the firm. And of course, I gave you in the handout of last week some of the risk factors you could expand on, such as regulatory risk. Case of that, again, loss of license, having your license revoked by your primary regulator, damage to credibility with the regulator. You don't want the regulator to say, oh, Brian, that don't sound right. When the regulator, you gotta call it, hey, how you doing? Hey, this is Brian. Oh, hey, Brian. How do young people say, they ain't really on your run? Yeah? So money laundering risk, again, costly investigations. Everything has a cost associated with it. Yes?
So if I were to take this around like customs, right?
Uh-huh.
Customs, right? The only risk I could use is money laundering?
No. When you say customs,
Like, if they say tourists, I mean, a sector of my church, if I decide to write about customs?
If you write about customs, you could have operational risk. I mean, there was failings with the way you operate. There was some breakdown in terms of controls. There are money laundering risk, even reputation. Customs can have a bad reputation too, you know.
Internationally as well.
Yeah, because if you're customs, you're the guardian of the coffers, as they like to call it. And if you can't regulate and control that, the international community would say, hey, they ain't ready, man. Sarah them playing, man. Sarah them only pushing people, they ain't checking, man. That's the risk too. Image is very important. Your name, reputational risk, financial risk, operational risk. These are just a few. You don't have to, this is not an exhaustive what I have right here. It's just something, like I said, it was just brainstorming and just putting stuff together. You could expand on it. And I have a few more there in the handout from last week, if you so desire. Yeah, from last week. Everyone didn't get a copy of that from last week, I don't think. The handout from last week, no?
Who was here, shut up?
Who was here got it? I only was able to, I only got a photo, right? A paper, so some got, some didn't get, and I was hoping that, some, Brian, he ain't trying to copy them for nobody. So if we could, but I could get Brenda to give you on, if you want me to do that? Because, yeah, Brenda's my girl, and I took over Brenda. So, Doron, you can remind me, I can make sure Brenda get hers. Or you can email it, Doron got it too, so if I got it, it's just as good as him. So, with the question number 3, 250 words, conservatively, and of course you could expand on that, but focus on the consequences. Yeah? That will impact your sector. Whether it's a bank, whether it's a gaming house, whether it's customs, and you just need to expand on it. It'd be good too if you have any examples. Yeah? Any big cases, juicy cases in the press? Or any allegations out there? Yeah, you could use allegations. Once it's in the public domain, you could run with that. And that's why legal will tell you that we always allege that, because they ain't really being convicted as yet, but they're guilty as hell. But huh? Yeah, man, they're guilty. Once you go to court, you're guilty. So question number 4. Again, 250 words conservatively. Question posed. Reflect on the purpose of regulatory compliance. And I have that underlined. The purpose. So you have to demonstrate that you know what is the purpose of regulatory compliance. You can talk about regulatory compliance all day, yeah. But the purpose, you remember Pastor Miles Monroe always say, the purpose? What's your purpose? You just aim to just ship it out of rudder. You ain't got no purpose. You ain't going nowhere. Other than going around in circles. So, purpose of regulatory compliance. You need to flesh that out and illustrate through the use of supporting examples. Now, with your examples, you don't have to get crazy, and it doesn't have to be so wordy. You can actually sum it up in short and brief, especially if it's one of those scenarios where everyone knows about it. So they don't need you to go and tell the whole story all over again. You keep it short and brief, especially when you're being mindful of your word count. So we don't want you to go and do a dissertation. Say, you know what? I can talk about that Enron thing, but at least 1,000 words. You only want to do it. You only in question number 1. So you only got like, 1,000 words left? So, I mean, you get your 10 points. But you really need to get at least, 85? Yeah, so the good thing about it is this time you don't have to do exams. I know everyone don't do well in exams, but papers, people do better on papers. Yeah? Yeah. You get more papers because you don't have the exam, but, it is what it is, Brian. So, I did include in here some, like I said, I was doing some brainstorm. The purpose of regulatory compliance, some stuff here, understand, under the traditional view, compliance is sometimes seen as an inconvenience. Huh? What's that? You just keep laughing. What? What? I don't know. It's the time, right?
That was a me laughing.
Okay. I tell you, boy. It's never a dull moment. Okay, so the purpose of regulatory compliance, you need to build on that. I use here a little backdrop. Under the traditional view, compliance is sometimes seen as an inconvenience. People always say with compliance, oh, them again. Business blockers. revenue downers, because all they good for is only one word is coming in, but no, not approved. I mean, you hear that all the time, you know, because you know the RMs, relationship managers, have to meet their targets, and compliance have to do an assessment. The risk involved, the risk is greater than the reward. No, I don't support it, and I'm not going to sign off on it. Citibank, you know how that is, and they say we ain't signing off on that. So that means you just prevented them from getting this, booking this loan or bringing in this new client who's based in Pakistan, who named Hugo Chavez Jr. And his first cousin named Pablo Escobar. So you ain't bring that client in because of all these factors. Yeah, they don't care about that. I mean, they thinking, yeah, because when you have to meet your target and exceed your target, that means at the end of the year you get a big bonus. Why I keep talking about bonus?
Why?
Maybe it's a season. Okay, so.
Well, they promote the incentives.
Huh?
I think they promote
You need incentives?
Yeah, that's why. He's on incentives. Yeah, let's go with that. So question number 4 again, to continue with that, placing the responsibility for doing the right thing solely on the compliance team is never an effective approach. Remember I stated earlier that it's everybody's responsibility. So when you think about the purpose of regulatory compliance, you got to get staff to buy in, because think about it. If the bank failed, you think only compliance going on? All is going on because they ain't got no bank. You know, if the license for the institution is revoked or suspended, you can't do no business. Not only compliance going home, you know. Or how they said, all the going home too. You know? Yes, then clown over there, blowing on by the hospital. Probably had something to drink.
Remember?
Oh, they started
They
now?
don't strike. Yes,
But in the
the
night,
doctors.
you don't strike in the night though.
No, but they're 24/7. They're 24/7 though. And remember they say
Oh, that's not
anything
good.
and
That's the
I'm not emergency.
water well coming on and anything else.
That's what
And it goes back to communication. That's not good compliance culture, because if they didn't tell the other staff, hey, we striking in the night. Are you sure? That means you gotta carry the whole ship. That don't make no sense. And again, I have in there bolded under question 4, regulatory compliance again, and you have to speak to it too. Not just saying what the purpose of it, you need to define it some way to show that you have a working definition of, describe the goal that the organization aspires to achieve in the efforts to ensure that they are aware of and take steps to comply with relevant laws. You can fancy it up. You don't have to use that definition. Go to Wikipedia, go to wherever you want. But please don't forget to cite it, so you don't take credit for it. That you came up with this lovely definition, and then at the end of the day you got this thing called plagiarism.
0.
And you get a big egg, 0, because they have a way of finding out. Because some people, they like to copy and paste. There was someone who copied and pasted and they forgot to take the border off.
Man, I can't.
Man, yeah, you can't. When you copy and paste, at least be good at it, man. Take the freaking border off. You copy and paste and everything. Just like other people got the border on it. They got all of that thing right there. And you're like, I mean, and the people, examiners ain't fool, Maybe blind, but I mean, when you see something with a border on it, you're like, oh, no.
She was highlighting that piece.
How the old people say, God can charge you. You can't put that on there. Anyhow.
Listen here.
What? Someone did it?
No, we did.
That came to mind because we had a scenario at my institution where we were defrauded. We were defrauded, and one of our frontline staff didn't pick up on that on a reference letter where this person dragged and copy and paste and dragged and left a letterhead and they sticked it on the letterhead. And those Nigerians, they the English ain't that strong too. The spelling and the stuff and they was give it, but when you see I mean they may at least take you crop the border, whatever you color off, however you do that, you just stick that on there, and that person was able to defraud the institution over several thousand. And they didn't pick up on it. But sometimes, again, remember, when you're under a lot of pressure, you're target driven, you got so much pressure here. When they tell you, Brian, this month you got to bring in $2 million, and you're trying to figure, boy, you need some money? You on loan? You need this? You need that? You got to go bring in $2 million that month. So you got to pound the pavement. So it's a lot of pressure. But those are the persons who get the big bonus.
That's all right, they can keep that. I'd rather be alive than be laying in the hospital and spend the bonus with the doctor.
Yeah, but man, don't know bonus now. Bonus is a good thing.
Incentive.
So, but, I mean, don't lock it. I mean, he's saying, you know, he ain't want to be locked in the hospital. Why we get to the hospital? I mean, because if you're in the hospital and you got a good bonus, you could pay for the bathroom and all. Right, but hospital. You gotta get your priorities right, Brian. So, you got me all caught me forget where I was. Okay, so the last paragraph on page 2.
You said
Where-
you have, you should define it.
Yeah, you should be able to define it to show that you have a working definition. So it's not just saying X, Y, and Z. If you start off by saying, okay, this is what it is, and this is the purpose of regulatory, you know, it demonstrates to the examiner,
You know what you're doing.
you know what you're doing. Especially when you could put in 1 or 2 examples. Yeah? Relevant, timely examples. And you say, yeah, this person knows what they're talking about. When employees understand that compliance is a part of the organization's DNA, the value can extend well beyond simply complying with policies and regulations. See that word gets sneak in there, that sexy word in there? Value. They like that. Value. Because they keep talking about stuff like value, ethics, you know, stuff like that. Morals, rather. Page number 3, question number 5. Now this one I expanded from the remember now we go on from 10 points. It's 20 points now, so you got to put in some more, a little bit more effort now. So I gave you 500 words. So conservatively, you can go from 5 to 600. You ain't gotta cheat this time. You get a little bit of leeway there. So the question posed: define what a good compliance culture is and illustrate links to ethics and integrity within the firm. You should go to town on this one. Now, this is the one I call the go to town on question. Number 5. Oh, masterpiece. City, you go crazy on this one. Some points I put in there. A culture of integrity is generally characterized by organizational values. So you're going to start off, lay the table saying, what it is. Culture is favorable, behaviors are more desirable in terms of policy compliance, risk prevention. So you set the table. You ain't got to put that part into the Warren Buffett. I just saw that, what he's saying, that it's everyone's responsibility. But with that one right there, you should go to town on it. I do have a section, and I just spoke about it just now. I gave you 6 pointers on good compliance culture. Yeah? And of course, you got your went wrong if you want to so desire to see what went wrong there. Danks Bank, it's in the Hano. You don't have to take it word for word from there. You can go to Fincen. That's F-I-N-C-E-N. They have a website of typologies. That's pretty good. Fincen, F-I-N-C-E-N. You can put in Fincen typologies in Google. You should get some good ones there. Question number 6. 600 words. This is one of those where this is the meat and potatoes one right here. You can go to town on this. This is the 5 one. You need to provide a guidance paper for the board. And the last paper you did that I assisted with, we did a guidance paper before. So you have the template as to how to do the guidance paper. Yeah, you was there legal. So you was near that one.
No, sure.
Oh, we gotta get legal that then. So she got if she, I don't legal know, but I mean we can get your copy of that. So you can see how we did it the last time. Okay, we'll Hans Bacher, right? Oh. Better part of them, okay. So once you have your guide, describe the relevant corporate governance requirements that apply to global. In the question, the entity is global, explaining why these are relevant for the firm. I did some little research on that. Central Bank of the Bahamas, they do have what's called, you writing this down, Deron? Central Bank of the Bahamas, they have something called a Central Bank of the Bahamas Board Engagement Policy. It came out in July of 2018. So some good information in there that you could extract. And this is what they expect. And they have pointers in there that you could actually lift and you could cite that. It's called the Central Bank of the Bahamas Board Engagement Policy. The whole policy, the thing about it is like this. I think it's only 5 pages. I brought a copy of it. I guess I got blessed someone with that. Someone already took it. Probably the wrong.
Nothing wrong with that,
Okay,
Say
well,
it's okay.
it might have gotten mixed up in one. But anyhow, it's only 5 pages, so if you print it, it's short. If you print down, you can actually, yeah, it's called the Central Bank of the Bahamas Board Engagement Policy. That's only 5 pages.
Yeah, it talks about supervised financial institutions.
Yes, yes, and it's very short, but has some salient. Say, yeah, man, she and it has some salient points that you could actually lift and you can just cite according to Central Bank of the Bahamas Engagement Policy paper. Sorry, the what? Huh? Oh, okay. You've been looking at me though. Okay, so you could even cite that according to the Central Bank's engagement policy of 2018. It states that, you know, this is what's expected. You could bullet that, and you got something right there you could add to your paper. Yeah? So you see what the regulators expect. As a matter of fact, Central Bank has indicated they have a meeting coming up on December the 11th. You know about that. I used to know all this stuff. Okay, so yeah, so the 11th of December, they're going to discuss supervisory concerns and issues and what they expect for 2019. So, yeah, they're going to be giving out some handouts and stuff. And usually it's on the, so you can get some of that, what they expect. So when you start talking with this corporate governance and expectation, you can lift that and put that in there. They normally put it in the, it's the notice section of the central bank's website. Some good stuff in there, it's timely. So anytime after the 11th, normally a day or two, it's posted there.
Yeah, it's posted.
Yeah, write that down, because you could get it. You could just lift that right from the notices, yeah? And then you could slip that right in there. From your jurisdiction, this is what's expected, here's the bullet points, and you could cite that. Free information there. Okay, and you can also use Basel. Basel Committee, I highlighted that here. In July 2015, publishes principles on corporate governance for banks. I mean, you could use a financial services, what they expect. Everyone knows that Basel is one of your international standard bearers for AML, which includes AML, so you could use that too. This is what's expected in the international arena. And normally what happens with the G20 countries internationally, it's always trickle down worldwide. So if they're the standard bearers, whatever they say have to be done, normally we have to follow suit. Yeah? Any subsequent amendments or upgrades post July 2015, you could cite in there. Some good stuff in there. This right here came from the little link here. I actually have the link in here in the paper too. Central Bank, they speak to the corporate governance, what it relates to. So if you have to use a definition, they have it spelled out right here. And you can cite them according to Central Bank. Good corporate governance is this. Quotation mark, italicized, whatever. And you got a whole section right there. That's right there, at least with 60 words right there. Yeah? Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Central bank and other financial sectors have a strict group. Okay, the fit and proper. You don't just become a board director. And they do have regulations as it relates to fit and proper, just like how it relates to the MLRO. You have to meet the criteria and a standard. The same guidelines and principles apply to board directors for regulated companies. You have to meet the criteria. So you can get that from Central Bank too, and you can include that in there too. Because remember now, you're going to be sitting on the board, so these persons need to know, you don't just sit there making decisions. You don't just happen to be by chance. You have to meet fit and proper. You remember in the handout from last week, it said that you have to be competent. We spoke about that tonight. There's a competency component in there that they have to satisfy. So you can include that in there too. So let's say right here I got from, well, market confidence. Me and Ron was talking about that earlier. That's a component here with the environment, market confidence. People have to be confident that you're running this entity right and not in the ground. Anyone here from Bank of Bahamas? No? Okay, because they was doing some stuff at Bank of the Bahamas, and let's be real, consumer confidence wasn't great there. Because you know when you say bank Bahamas, it's almost like a bad word sometimes. They're like, oh, all them loans? Yeah, God. I was wait the members of parliament go get the money. Just go there and you get a free house or whatever, free mortgage, whatever. It was almost like a bad word. And you didn't have to pay it back, even when you're out of office. You know, you don't have to pay it back or whatever. But market confidence. You do not want to have your money being banked at an institution where you feel as if money is being abused by some politician or whatever, or your money is being commingled with dirty money and all that stuff. I got to be confident that when I put my money in your institution, it's being regulated properly. The persons who are in charge are competent, and they know what the hell they're doing. Make sense? Especially if you get shares in these institutions, you want to know that it's profitable, right? Because you want your dividends, and you don't want to hear every day it drop. Your business will make you depressed. You're like, they drop again? Like, dang, there ain't nothing right over there. So you need to have confident shareholders and confident consumers and market. Make sense, Brian? Brian ain't writing yet. Okay. I know Brian finished a long time. He only come in here just to suck a BC. So go to number 7, question number 7.
That's all I wrote.
Yeah, right, Brian. Yeah, that's all you wrote, right? Yeah, fool me.
Alright.
So question number 7. Again, conservatively 500 words. Now this one, listen here. This one here is 20 points. That's automatic 20 points for every single person. You know why? This is the question we call the stampede question. You all should run crazy over this one. You all should. This one here is like stupid easy.
Right.
This is almost like a gift. This is a gift. Number
Start
7
off
is a
with 20
gift.
points.
You start off at 20 automatically with that. So now you got to figure out how I can get the next 40 points to pass. So I don't know 20. This one is 20. Easy. Yeah? So the question asks, is regulation necessary? And I have that bold with, is it necessary? Let me ask you this question. Anyone ever get mad? Just say someone come to your front room. Because the ladies in here, you know you all like these little sofas and all that nice stuff. And it's just the little furry sofa. And all white. And you got this uncle. You know they got that, everyone family got a nephew or uncle who like take care of his feet and all that stuff, right? You got this nice white chair. He come to the house, he throwing up his leg on your nice white chair.
Wrong place.
And then you gotta say, young man, govern yourself. What the hell are you doing? You're like, I mean like
Govern.
Oh, you got inside?
I'm going somewhere with that because I mean, in a regulated environment, and then we talk about morals, common sense, and all that good stuff. You know, the decent thing to do when you come to someone's house, you don't throw up your leg. Yeah, and when you see them white chair, and you know, some people. I have a friend. They got a house, and they still got the plastic on the chair. And I like 5 years later, they ain't take that plastic off the chair. And when you sit down in that chair, that's why you just stand up. I just stand up and say, you never sit down. You know, like, trying to get shape, but I ain't all the hot chair. But what I'm saying is that, you know, you have to regulate it. Yeah? So why is it necessary? Common sense, perhaps. If we removed all regulations and left the market participants to operate freely, yeah? Anyone ever watch a dumb movie called The Purge?
Yes.
What would happen in the Bahamas if we have one night out of the year where you could kill anyone you want, you don't go to jail? Now, and you know, can imagine now, and this the day before my boss gave me that yen assessment. So you know. So she tell me, well, you know, ain't nothing happening. I say, all right, 6 hours to the purge. So you know what happened, right? I'm sorry, but wipe the blinds off the short, right? Because I mean, she can be sleeping with the fish. So I'm just saying to say that, you know, I can get over it by tomorrow. But I'm just saying that things happen. So you could go to town on this one because some points I have in here written. What did the Bahamas AML regime look like prior to blacklisting? Let's be real. We were doing a lot of garbage prior to 2000. Because I remember some stories when the fellas was to walk with a little croaker sack in a particular bank with the star with the S on Bay Street and tell the branch manager, hey, look here, I need to put this in the back. They go to the safety deposit box or just put it on the deposit the money in the account. And the only thing required back then was the little yellow little card. Hey, wasn't taking picture and all back then. You know, you want to take a picture, it's up to you, not. You don't KYC the farmers. So you just come with the little card. They only get your signature back then, you know. And you remember old people used to get a little book. And then you old people, they wait on the line, and you like, next. No, I want the book. Really? We don't do that no more online. No, I want the book. Who can put all them entries in? Boy, try. I go online. Yeah, you know them people, you 60, you 90, you know one trying to go online. But everyone, you know, they want the book. The wrong can tell you. People want you to write down in the book.
Update the book.
Update the book. Really? Book? You don't want no more book.
The book secure with the
But they don't want to go online and say, oh, when you go online, they thief your money. So they ain't take it on the book. Really? All right, keep your book. You got a book with plenty of money, but ain't nothing on your account. So prior to blacklisting, a lot of foolishness was going on. You could even say, if you want to use this jurisdiction, prior to that, a lot of stuff, we were lacking. The international community said we were lacking. And it's true, because case in point, whenever you had suspicious report, there was no FIU. You know who you just give it to? Central Bank. And they just keep it on a shelf somewhere. It was never investigated, never went anywhere. So whatever. So the world say, all the other countries in the world got FIUs, but y'all ain't got none. Who investigate your stuff? The FIU? Who? What's that?
Police.
What? I mean, thank God it happened, because I got a job out of it. I got 9 years in FIU, and they created that. So I was over there for 9 years. I didn't mind. But I'm saying to say that we were lacking. KYC was weak. International information sharing legal, to tell you, with those MLATs and stuff. It was weak. So we had to show up our AML legislative. POCA, proceeds of crime, had to be strengthened. Because everyone was running drugs back then. Proceeds of crime, dangerous drugs. So you got a lot of legislation. You can go and cite the blacklisting. Because prior to that, it was a lot of deficiencies. And the international community say you can be blacklisted and you get it in order. In other words, we weren't adequately regulated. So when they ask the question, is regulation necessary? Yeah, there's a place for regulation. But you have to be balanced in this conversation. That's the trick in this one here. They say be balanced in your approach. So I have the good and the bad side. Like the good side, when it works well in a democratic environment, laws protect people, protect you from yourself sometimes. Because you know, you leave it to us. We don't care. That's true. Protect people from harmful things that they cannot prevent on their own. Much evidence shows that benefits of regulation outweighs the cost. Yeah? Because some people will say, well, hire a compliance officer, man, that's like the basic level, that's $60,000 a year. But a fine is $100,000 under the central bank penalty regime. So you got $100,000 fine, or hire this compliance officer $60,000 a year. Do the maths. I mean, right there, man, I'd rather hire that person and give him a proper incentive and eventually move up. But $100,000, you know, so you gotta do the math if you want to do that. We use that as an illustration, perhaps. So regulation is better. SDR reporting, I touched on that earlier. Suspicious transaction reporting. There was no proper mechanism in place prior to that regulation being adopted by the country, bringing us in line with international standards. Back then it was like, okay, send it to the central bank. Central bank, you think they got time to go investigate? That's not an investigative body. So the FIU was created, that's all they do. That's their primary core function. Yeah? So they put all the focus on there, and when necessary, they send it on to the Commissioner of Police, they do their further investigations. But central bank ain't got time for that. So that was a good thing that came out of it. Another one here in the United States, for example, increased government regulation, spurred and large by destabilization of the corporate scandals such as Enron and WorldCom. Because of that scandal, something good came out of it. The regulation that was necessary to protect investors, that wasn't there prior to. Yeah? Which is called the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. So you could use that too. See that? Something good came out of regulation because it wasn't there prior to. And investors were being duped. Unscrupulous accounting practices, with people thinking they got all that money on paper. But dude, you try to cash that in, you got zero. Yeah? And then there's the flip side, the bad side. Sometimes not all regulations are effective. All medicine ain't gonna work. Let's put it like that. Yeah, that's why doctors always say, I took an educated guess. Now that crew who on strike, I ain't taking nothing from them. But I mean, they take an educated guess. You know, that's what being a doctor is all about. So not all regulations are effective. Some are too restrictive. Sometimes they go overboard. You know, sometimes I think legally want to impress the international community. Like at the fine, you remember the fine, Deron? It went from 50,000 to 500,000. Well, who we trying to impress? Who we trying to impress? See, Father came in and gave us one report saying, hey, you ain't finding people enough. 50,000 to 500,000? I mean, that's, sometimes it could be overboard, but I guess he's sending the message. It's a bad side there too. While the goals of most regulatory programs enjoy broad public support and practice, regulation usually comes down to plenty paperwork. Have you seen paperwork yet? Because of new guidelines and legislation. I ain't got more cabinet space. And they tell me, oh, microfiche, whatever that means. And they saying stuff like box it, you send it down to archives, you still run out of space. Oh, they compress it, put it on your computer and archive it. I can't, well, you can't, you ain't playing shredding now. That could be the one case they come looking for. No way. You ain't a lock up party, son. But we don't do that shredding thing now. I'd rather carry it home, keep it in my car, whatever you want. Ain't nothing getting shredded. No way. I don't look good in them black and white stripe.
You have it on now?
I ain't been having on now, but like I told you all the last time in class, them ain't no one can braid my ear. So, continue with the bad side. Yeah, it is. You get your hair braid when you go to Boston. And who you think that is? So, I forget what I was saying. Okay, yeah. So regulations, again, can be onerous. Of course, we know they could go overboard, they could be onerous. That means it's layers and layers of processes. You think it's enough now? You think it's enough processes you got to do? Wait till you see new legislation come around in 2019. Yeah, man. Guess what? You know why? Think about this a second. This is how parliamentarians stay gainfully employed.
Yeah.
They got to come up with new laws. If they ain't got no laws, what they can be doing all day? They can just stay with what? Walk around their constituencies, kiss babies all day. So they have to.
They don't even walk around?
They got to go in the house and sit down and do this all day. So that's they have to do that. That's what they're being paid to do. So they have to create laws. So you will always have laws and new processes coming up. I think that's a good start right there. 7 o'clock. I'll see you next. Stay on time. He's on time though. If you didn't get a copy of the central bank, I mean, it's more likely you can get it, the central bank's engagement paper. I could probably print a few off. All two. It has some good points in there. You could always click them and incorporate them in your paper. Yeah? And hopefully it was sort of helpful. Yeah, you only said it right now, so you get outside. I don't know why you don't get it. Oh, Lord.
You text me.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I'll bring you a copy if you didn't get it. No problem.
Sorry, carry on my macaroni and